So, this is my review for The Legend of Korra Book 3, subtitled Change. Now, I already did a video a while back about the first 7 episodes of the season, and I was gonna do this as like a second parter, but overall I thought it would just be better for me to give you my impressions of the entire season now that it's completed, and now that Book 4 premiered a couple of days ago, and I'll do a review of Book 4 when the time comes for it, but right now I just want to get this book out of the way before focusing on that one. So, general impressions of Book 3. I think that this is one of the best seasons of Avatar in general. It's leaps and bounds better than the pieces of crap that the first 2 seasons of Korra were, and I would even put it above the first season of Avatar, The Last Airbender, which I'm not all too crazy about. I mean, it's not a bad season, but Book 2 is really where things started to get real good. Before that, it was alright. But yeah, in terms of Avatar seasons throughout the whole series, I would definitely put this right up there with Books 2 and 3 of The Last Airbender, of course. And really, this book is what Book 1 should have been in almost every single way. And there are a lot of similarities between this book and Book 1, and Book 4 already has some similarities with Book 2, I think. And I really think that the creators saw an opportunity with this book to fix the issues of Book 1, which they couldn't have done because Book 1 was supposed to be a single-season thing. They didn't know they were going to get to do more things. The same thing happened with Book 2. They didn't know they were going to be able to do more things with it. That was supposed to be the end of the whole storyline. There wasn't supposed to be any other stuff after that. And then Nickelodeon ordered a Book 2, and then when Book 2 was getting in production, they ordered Books 3 and 4. And I think that the writers getting the opportunity to work on 2 books simultaneously has not only allowed them to craft a better storyline for those books and a better script and all that stuff, it lets them know what's going to happen at any given book, and it lets them make long-spanning decisions based on that. And that is very blatantly obvious in the premiere of Book 4, and I think that is what killed the first 2 books. Like, after watching this one, I'm convinced that these guys knew what they were doing. These guys were able to make Books 1 and 2 like this. But the problem was Nickelodeon, because they ordered only singular seasons and they didn't know if they were going to get more, and so they basically got fucked up. That still doesn't excuse the fact that the books were utter pieces of shit, but I'm just trying to give you guys some perspective on the whole thing. So, the basic gist of Book 3 is that it takes place a couple weeks after Book 2. Korra has united both the human and the spirit worlds by leaving the spirit portals open. We have a whole section of Republic City that is infested with these vines and plants that come from the spirit world into our own material world. And the problem with this is, if this was like in an outside secluded part of the city, no one would give a shit. But the fact of the matter is that these vines take up a huge portion of the center of the city. You know, businesses were there, people used to live there, people are trying to live there, but the spirits are making it kind of hard for them. Korra is trying to remove the plants from this world and bring them back into the spirit world so people can return to normal, but things are not working out for her well. And to make matters even more complicated, the president of the United Republic, he's really breathing down her throat, trying to get her to fix that shit. And then the public approval of her is like a rock bottom because everybody blames her for doing this, which, of course, that was her decision. And overall, just from the get-go, it is obvious that what Korra did in Book 2 is getting addressed in this book. It's not like how Book 2 almost completely ignores everything that happened in the previous season, like it never happened. And yeah, so there's another complaint that's already addressed immediately. But then things get even more complicated as we have new airbenders, showing up. Like, suddenly people who didn't have bending ever in their lives have airbending, and then Tenzin is all like, oh yeah, I'm going to rebuild the Air Nation. And then things get even more complicated when some of them want to go, some of them don't want to go because they'd be abandoning their families. And then it gets even more complicated when you have Zaheer, a anarchist, essentially, who also gets the power to airbend, and he starts breaking out his super bending buddies, and they want to take out the Avatar. So really, a lot of shit happens in this book. There's even more. There's the stuff with Lynn. There's what happens to Korra at the end, and really overall, this was a lot denser than the previous two books, I'd say. And I'd say that despite all the things that happen, I think that the season generally did a pretty good job of handling everything that was going on. They handled the stuff with Korra well. They handled the stuff with Tenzin mostly well. I'll get to that later on. They handled the stuff with Lin excellently, I think. And overall, despite all the things that were happening at once, they easily could have screwed it up. But I'm pleased to say that from the beginning to the end, everything flows perfectly. Like, there's one episode that focuses just on the airbender training, and the purpose of that episode was like to show I don't know how these people are adapting to the airbending lifestyle, because remember, these people were not nomads. They were not born into the society. This isn't normal for them. These are farmers. These are store owners who had never had powers, who never thought they could ever have any kind of power. And now they can airbend, and now they're being invited to rebuild an entire civilization from the ground up. Some want to go, some don't want to go for obvious reasons. And overall, I like that the whole airbending thing is dealt with realistically. It's not like everyone's like, fuck you, I don't want to airbend, and not everyone's like, oh my god, I'm an airbender, I'm going to go rebuild civilization. No. Of course, you have some people who want to go for whatever reason. Some want to go because they want to go, others want to go because they have nothing else in their lives. They're either petty thief in the sense of Kai, and being an airbender is going to let them, do something with their lives that they otherwise wouldn't have. But then you got some guys who don't want to go because they don't feel like it, or because they don't want to abandon their families. And overall, the issue is handled mostly seriously. It is kind of jarring when Tenzin tries to convince them. He's like, oh yeah, like you don't ever have to worry about eating meat because we're all vegetarians. And he's saying that to this big, obese dude who's just slobbering on a big steak or something, and the dude just shuts the door on him. He tries to convince a kid by telling him, oh yeah, the only friend you're ever going to have for the rest of your life is like this sky bison, and the mom closes her door on Tenzin too. And that was kind of, that was funny, but it does kind of lessen the effect that the whole thing is handled seriously. And even in the episode, which I thought was filler, they still handled things seriously. These people are not adjusting to this very easily. It's a tough process, but by the end of the book, you can tell that they've overcome their issues, and now they're, ready to take the responsibility. But really, that episode that really focuses on them was not particularly interesting, I'd say, because there's this whole subplot about sky bison poachers. They kill sky bison and take their fur. And I mean, that was horrifying, because I'm kind of an animal lover, I guess, and that kind of stuff bothers me. I'm more bothered by the fact that animals get hurt instead of people, which is kind of fucked up, I guess, depending on how you see it. But that was messed up. But really, I didn't find the episode particularly interesting. And really, the problem was that they focused too much on these guys. And really, we haven't really gotten an opportunity to meet these new airbenders. Like, if we got more time to meet them, like give a name to their faces and that kind of stuff, and get kind of a feel for their personalities and shit, we could kind of understand their pain more. But as the episode goes on, it's just Tenzin being an asshole, and it's just a bunch of these random people we don't care about getting treated like shit because Tenzin's an asshole. So yeah, I thought that episode that focused on the airbenders was my least favorite one. I understand what they were going to do, but I think that with the limited amount of time they had, they weren't able to execute it well. All the other stuff, I would say, was executed fantastically. Korra is finally matures this season. She has several great lines of dialogue where she's telling people, to take responsibility for their actions, and it makes thematic sense. The best scene of Korra, this entire book, besides the ending, is the scene where, in the very first episode, where there's this airbender guy. Like, he's this shop owner who's been, like, causing trouble all over the city because he can't control his powers. He's standing on this big-ass bridge, and Korra comes up to him, and they talk about that kind of stuff. How they both had kind of a shitty day. He got powers he can't control. Korra's getting shat on by everyone in the city. They both had kind of a shit day, and then she tells him it's all gonna be all right. It's all gonna be all right. And then she's able to bring him down without any kind of without him basically killing himself. And I thought that was a great scene. That was like some Superman shit. Right there, and I really appreciated that. I always kind of dig these moments, and when you really think about it, the Avatar kind of is like supposed to be kind of like the Superman of the universe. He's supposed to be the one who's going to talk the guy down. He's supposed to be the guy who's gonna, a guy or girl, I guess, who's gonna be able to solve the problems, not just with his fist, but also talking. And really, I thought that's probably my favorite scene of Korra. It really shows her maturity, and it really shows her development as a character, which is a big problem in book 2. But overall, Korra was handled very well here. I never really got any moment where I was like, oh my gosh, he's acting like an annoying bitch again. And whenever she did get frustrated, like classic Korra tends to get frustrated, it was always at people who were justified. Like, when Korra got frustrated at the Earth Queen, it made sense, because the Earth Queen is a gargantuan motherfucking bitch who deserved to die, and she did die, so thank you, Zaheer, for that. Or when she was dealing with, someone unreasonable, like this slacker dude who's like, nothing matters, everything sucks, nothing matters, and then Korra gets annoyed by him, and then she tries to take him out, which is pretty funny. But overall, whenever Korra did act like classic angry Korra, it made sense, because the people she was being angry at were complete assholes who you were also angry at, you, the audience, so that made you root for her when she did get pissed off at people. And overall, Korra done beautifully. As a character, beautifully. I have absolutely no complaints about this season as far as Korra is concerned. Now, the other characters, they really don't get a whole lot to do. Asami's friendship with Korra was great. These two are a lot of fun together. You can tell that they're, genuinely friends and that kind of stuff. And of course, the shippers of Korra Asami, like myself, are gonna go insane, went insane over those scenes where they're like, together and that kind of stuff. But overall, I really like the fact that these two are actually hanging out, which is a big problem in the previous books, and it's still a problem here, where there's this big disjointed feeling in the group. Like, even Mako and Bolin, when they're hanging out, they're doing their own thing, separate of Asami and Korra. Asami and Korra are doing their thing, and Tenzin is doing his thing. Like, with the way the show is structured, you can't make a tight, focused group like you could in Last Airbender, because in Last Airbender, it was this small group of kids or teenagers against the whole world going after them, and so they didn't have any place to be. They didn't have, like, jobs they had to go to. They didn't have other responsibilities. Saving the world and being in this group was their sole responsibility, and it made sense for that to be a tight-knit group. And here, obviously, we have Mako as a detective. Asami has her own company to lead, and Tenzin's trying to rebuild a country. Everyone else has separate jobs they need to deal with, and because of that, the whole new Team Avatar thing has never properly materialized. These people have never felt like a dedicated team, I guess, and that's kind of a problem that still persists. But the way the show is structured in comparison to Last Airbender, I'm not sure if they could even create a group like that without having everybody just quit their jobs and being a traveling nomad like the crew of Last Airbender was. Sorry. But overall, I really like Korra and Asami's friendship. I wish there were more scenes, because they had a lot of scenes in the first episode, a bit in the second, and then kind of vanishes, and then they show up again in, this shows up a bit later on. But overall, Asami, I think the writers have a big problem with Asami being a non-bender, because when you're a non-bender, of course you can compensate for. Of course you can learn martial arts and that kind of stuff, and you have all these sorts of gadgets. But I really get the sense that the writers struggled what to do with Asami because she's not a bender. Like, if Asami got firebending, I think they would involve her in a lot more fight scenes and that kind of stuff. And it's really weird that they don't find things to do with her, because she's supposedly this great inventor, so I don't know why they couldn't give her, like, some kind of Batman type shit. Like, why can't they give her an explosive boomerang, smoke pellets, or any of that kind of stuff? And of course, Asami does get a few good action scenes to herself, and I still really, really like her, even though there's nothing particularly special about her or her personality. She's just kind of a good person who wants to help people out, and in comparison to some of the how other characters are handled in the show, I think that's perfectly enough for me to like Asami. But the problem is, she really is kind of limited based on the fact that she's not a bender, and I really get the sense that the creators are struggling what to do with her. I mean, of course, if there's a vehicle involved, she's going to kick ass, and that's kind of her specialty, but still, it's obvious they have problems what to do with her in hand-to-hand type combat. Okay, Mako. Mako didn't do anything special for me this season. I mean, of course, his scene where he meets his insanely extended family and his kind of insane grandma, I thought was pretty damn touching. I really liked that bit. But overall, Mako really didn't do anything for me. Although he made me laugh much more than Bolin, and I'm gonna get to Bolin in a minute. But Mako's whole awkwardness act around Korra and Asami, I thought that was really funny. Where he's like he doesn't know what to say to them. Like they don't care that they dated the same guy, like they're friends and they don't care, but he's all awkward and shit. He's like, hi, Miss Avatar Korra, ma'am, sir, and he's like really awkward, and it was really, really funny. And Mako's problem is that he's like a stick in the mud, like he's this really like stoic, kind of serious dude, and typically he doesn't do anything that's particularly fun. But in this time around, I thought that his whole awkwardness act with Korra and Asami was great. I really liked the fact that he wasn't awkward every time he spoke to them. Like, they were able to hold a normal conversation if something serious was going on. But if it was like a normal scene where they're just like talking and stuff, it was awkward. And I thought that was pretty funny. Although, I will say that there was kind of a missed opportunity with him and Kai. Because Kai is a street urchin, and who's like stealing from the team themselves and everyone else, and Mako doesn't trust him. And I thought that Mako was going to serve as kind of like his mentor to show him, like, yeah, you might have been a street urchin, but if you take care of yourself and that kind of stuff and you play by the rules, eventually you're going to make something out of yourself. And of course, I can understand someone in the comments telling me later on that, well, then that would mean Kai would have to stick with the group and he wouldn't get to train as an airbender, and that would have made a whole separate issue. But overall, I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. I think they could have done a lot of cool stuff with the prospect of Mako teaching someone like him, a street urchin, that yeah, you can make something out of yourself if you actually take care of yourself and work hard and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that could have been a great way to take Mako, but obviously they didn't take that route. And then there's Bolin. Oh my god, I fucking hate Bolin. I'm not gonna pretend. There's no other way to say it, guys. Like, I really, really, really cannot stand this motherfucker. My problem with Bolin is that he is a terribly done Sokka. And he's not just a terribly done Sokka because he's not funny. Because he's not funny. It's the fact that this is a universal issue I have with every comic relief character. A comic relief character exists to create comic relief. And in 90% of the situations, in storylines and that kind of crap, the comic relief guy is just the comic relief guy. There is no character to him. He just exists to tell jokes and nothing else. There's nothing else special about him. There's nothing special about his abilities. Okay, he does get lava bending, but I'll get to that later too. And they're just there to give jokes. It's like a character who's created just to be a girlfriend or boyfriend of another character. That's them. They have no greater dimension. Sure, they can try to add them, but if you make a character that's blatantly supposed to be comic relief and that kind of shit, you really gotta work to make us see them as something else than just a comic relief. And like Sokka. Sokka's obviously supposed to be the comic relief. But later on, he got layers to him. Like, he proved himself as a warrior, as a leader, as a strategist, as an idea guy, and he proved that this guy's whole existence isn't just because the writers have an excuse to tell, wacky jokes and that kind of stuff. He can lead men into war. He can fight, especially once he learns how to use a sword. He can create all these sorts of inventions that are leaps and bounds ahead of what his technology is capable of. And he really proved himself as a fully fleshed out and multi-dimensional character who used the comic relief as kind of a jumping off point. Bolin has nothing. He has abso-fucking-lutely nothing. He has no reason to be here except the fact that he's bored. He doesn't have any kind of job like even Mako does. Like Mako being a detective and fighting crime, okay, that makes sense because he used to be a criminal too, and that kind of gives him an edge because he knows how the underworld world of crime works. You know, he knows who to ask for information, that kind of stuff, and that kind of gives him an edge on the streets. That makes sense. That's good. But Bolin has nothing. Like, the only reason this guy does any of this stuff is because he's bored and he has absolutely fuck all to do with his life. Like, I'm not even sure anymore, but I believe this guy is still living with Tenzin and stuff. And obviously, if Tenzin wasn't as hospitable as he was, he would have kicked Bolin's ass to the curb ages ago. Because, really, this dude, he does nothing. And really, like, I wouldn't even maybe complain about him just being a comic relief and nothing else if his jokes were funny. But the way this show is structured is not the same way as Last Airbender. In Last Airbender, we were dealing with kids or, you know, kids who were becoming teenagers and that kind of stuff. So you could still get away with this kind of wackier humor that Sokka did and that kind of stuff, and it still felt natural. And even at the show's darkest, like even when Avatar The Last Airbender was at its absolute darkest, it never got anywhere near as bleak and depressing as Korra does in certain points, especially in this season. Like, what happens to Korra at the end of this is, like, darker than most things that have happened in all of Last Airbender. Like, even darker, to me anyway, than when Aang was almost killed by Azula. And then when you have this kind of darker, sort of edgier storyline that's trying to take things a lot more seriously, and then you throw in this weird motherfucker who's not even funny into the mix, he just comes off as awkward and horribly forced. I do not like this character at all. He has absolutely no dimension to him. His voice actor annoys the fucking shit out of me. And his whole, like, okay, they had another opportunity with him airbending, not airbending, oh my god, with him metal bending. Like, he has like this self-esteem issue where he thinks that only one in like 1,000 earthbenders can metal bend. And I thought that was great. That shows that this guy isn't just comic relief. Like, this guy kind of has self-esteem issues. Like, he doesn't think of himself as worthy of, you know, having access to this kind of power, and he's going to learn how to use this power and, you know, get some more self-confidence and stuff. And I thought that was great. I thought, for the first time ever, I thought that, man, this guy is actually a character. Like, he has problems and personality and shit besides being a comic relief. And then it gets dropped. And then he gets lava bending. And I'm like, fuck off. Fuck off. I know the excuse, like, oh, he's the son of a woman from the Fire Nation and a guy from the Earth Kingdom, so it makes sense for him to bend lava. I don't care. When that lava flow was going to kill him, I was like, please die. Please die. Please die. And then, when he started to manipulate lava out of nowhere, I was like, fuck! But, yeah, I do not like Bolin at all. Okay, can he please die? Please? Please, for the sake of my sanity, can you please fucking kill him next season? Please? Okay, so, jumping on to the bad guys. Okay, the bad guys in this season were pretty awesome, but they were underdeveloped. Now, Zaheer and Pali and the Earthbender, and the octopus lady. I'm sorry, I don't remember the lava bender and the octopus lady's names because their names are not really memorable and that they don't stick out in my head. But overall, I thought that these guys were fucking awesome. Like, when these guys were working in conjunction with each other, they were a force to be reckoned with. They had, like, you know, the combustion chick Zaheer with his awesome air bending, lava bending, the octopus lady's arms. These guys just had a fucking insane level of cool factor to them, which immediately made them appealing to me. And seeing these guys in action in this kind of animation quality was just mind-blowing. Like, especially the waterbending chick. Like, some of the things she does with her arms is insane. Like, she jumps into the air, forms a giant-ass drill around her whole body to get through the ice, and then when she breaks her friend out, she's using her own waterbending hands to basically, as, you know, climbing spikes. And I thought that kind of shit was really, really cool. I really like it when characters do that kind of clever stuff to get around issues, you know, instead of just, you know, powering on through everything. And I even kind of like the exchange that she had, you know, with the Earthbender guy, where Bolin's like playing this kind of guessing game with them, and he's, you know, saying, "Oh yeah, your mother was like this. Your power is surfaced when you were this old, and you have a thing for the waterbending chick." And the dude's like, not bad. 2 out of 3. And I thought those kinds of moments were really, really cool. And I really like that these guys, unlike Amon and Ozai and pretty much every other bad guy in the whole Avatar universe, now that I think about it, these guys did not, Zaheer did not regard these people as henchmen. Like, these guys were not just expendable grunts to him that he could just toss away. No, these guys were his best. Like, these guys weren't just his best soldiers. These guys were his best friends, you know. Like, you can tell that these guys were friends. You know, they had, you know, relationships with one another. They knew each other. They you know, had banter with each other when in the moments that we saw them. And overall, you really got the sense that these people really knew each other and they were really friends and that they meant something to one another. It wasn't like Ozai sacrificing an entire battalion of young, fresh firebenders. It wasn't like Azula basically treating everyone like a tool she can abuse any way she wanted to. And basically the same thing applies to Amon, Tarlok, and Unalak, basically. And it really was a different flavor to the bad guy to make them more human, and at the same time it makes them a lot more interesting. But my problem with the group overall is that they're horribly underdeveloped. Like, when they first show up, they have a lot of interactions with each other, and that's really, really great. But later on, we still get a few scenes with them together, but we never really get to see them, you know, talk about kind of stuff like regular people, like friends would and stuff. And overall, their interactions just kind of fall by the wayside, and it lessens them as characters, I feel. Like, I think that if they could have gotten in a few more conversations and stuff between their interactions and everything, I think they could have been even more fully fleshed out characters. But as it stands, they have a strong debut, but as the season goes on, it just kind of falls by the wayside. And I think that Zaheer's romance with Combustion Chick suffers the most out of this, because they kiss in the beginning, then they don't act like they even know each other, you know, for the rest of it. They're just like grunts to him. And then before she dies, they have like this big moment where they're like, "Oh, I love you too." And basically to set up Zaheer getting the power of flight. And that's kind of disappointing. I really wish some of these intercharacter relationships between the bad guys could have been more thoroughly explored. But Zaheer, up until the end, I was all with Zaheer. Like, this dude, he got shit done. He completely believed in his own ideology, and he was willing to do whatever the hell it took to get it. And he got more done than both Unalak and Amon did. Because Amon's whole thing was like destroying the establishment, that kind of stuff. But because of poor writing and plot-induced stupidity, Amon fucked up. This guy does not fuck up. Like, when he gets to the Earth Queen, you know, he realizes, okay, this plan's not going to work this way. Let's go kill the queen. And then he kills the queen. And then he just sends the entire Earth Kingdom into absolute fucking anarchy. And I love it. I love it when bad guys get shit done. I always fucking hate it when villains or any character at all gets either plot-induced stupidity or they have this big nagging character flaw that just gets abused over and over and over and over and over again, which is basically what happens to Thanos, you know, just saying. But anyway, Zaheer got shit done, which is what I like about him. I'm always a fan when characters, you know, get shit done, whether they're heroes or villains. And this guy, killing the Earth Queen, like suffocating her in such a graphic fashion, well, graphic for a Western animated series, was just awesome. And then he gives him like this big Bane speech from Dark Knight Rises, and he's like, you know, Deshi Basara Basara, and then the whole fucking city goes into complete anarchy, and I love it. I love it so, so, so much. And I was totally on this guy's, payroll. Like, I don't agree with his ideology at all. I think his ideology would just result in everyone murdering each other like savage barbarians and shit. But he had such a presence on the big screen, and he was so cool that you just got caught up into his whole ideology, and and I was genuinely on his side for a lot of it, because he was like the guy taking everything serious. He was the guy getting his shit done, and I was really, really, with him up until the end. The end of the season is where things got kind of mixed for me. Now, Pali dying, the way she dies, I thought that was executed great. Like Suyin putting that big metal case around her face just as the explosion is going off and it just blows her whole head off. I thought that was great. I thought that was a clever and excellent way to get rid of Combustion Chick, who's a gargantuan pain in the ass, throughout the whole season to everybody. Tenzin, taking on the entire group by himself and getting his ass beat. I thought that was great. I even wish that Tenzin died, because the way he was getting his ass beat, it really looked like he was going to die. And I think that if they decided to kill him there, it would have been a proper send-off, because, he's dying on his own terms. Like, he's dying to save his family, he's dying to save his people. He's going to take these motherfuckers on by himself, and him, dying and that kind of stuff so that everyone else can escape, I think would have been a great way to send off the character. But, of course, he doesn't die, which I was actually kind of sad about. But the ending, the finale itself, the very, very end of the finale, where Jinora becomes the master of the airbenders, and Korra is crippled from the fact that she had this poisonous metal injected into her body, I thought that was great. I thought that was what should have happened at the end of Book 1. At the end of Book 1, Korra should not have gotten all her powers back, plus a couple extra. She should have stayed only an airbender, and she should have dealt with that kind of shit. Here, the writers fixed that. Like, when Korra gets this poisonous substance into her limbs, she's not all fine and dandy and that kind of stuff. Everything Zaheer and everything Aman, Unalak, Vatu, and Zaheer had done to her has finally crushed her, because a big prevailing point of all the books is that the world does not need the Avatar. The world does not need the Avatar to unite the nations, because we have the United Republic for that. The world no longer needs Korra to be the bridge between the spirits and the humans, because the spirits and the humans are bridged. They exist on the same plane of existence once again, so they don't need her for that too. And now, they're saying, and now at the end of this, Korra is so crippled, both emotionally, psychologically, and physically, that she can't even do the job of being a sort of wandering guardian, right, either, and she has to allow the new air nomads to basically take her place as the bastion, as the keepers of peace and order throughout the Earth Kingdom, basically Jedi style. And really, I think the way the first books were done, in the haphazard way they were done, I think that Korra seeing the visions of her previous adversaries as she's getting tortured and poisoned, I thought that was great, and it really allowed them to sort of bridge the first two books, which was really disjointed and that kind of stuff in the terms of where they were placed and how they went, and they managed to bridge that with the conclusion of Book 3 to great effect. And now, what is left for Korra? What is left for the Avatar to do? She can't be the bridge anymore because they're united. She can't. She isn't, the one, who's the representation of all the four nations, because we got the United Republic for that. And now she can't even do her job as the protector. Of course, in the Book 4 premiere, her body is back to normal as far as I can see. So obviously she could do that, but the effects everything has had on her these past couple of years is very apparent. At the end of the book, she's totally destroyed. She can't do anything. She can't sleep, obviously, and she is just completely and utterly destroyed from the ground up all the way to the bottom. And now in Book 4, it's pretty obvious that Korra's going to have to build herself back up into someone who's capable of being a good Avatar once again. And I thought that was great. I love all the shit they did it with Korra this book. And the finale where she just sheds a tear, and you don't know if she's happy or sad, because Jinora's ascending to a masterhood, but Korra's losing the last important thing she had to do, was the Avatar. And so really, I just love endings like that. I just love it when you don't know what really happens, and it's up for interpretation. I just love that shit. I know a lot of people don't, but this way, they still manage to give a finite ending to everything that happens, but still manage to keep some things ambiguous enough for people to discuss about it. And obviously, I don't think we're ever going to get a clear answer as to why she shed the tear. It's going to be a big point of debate for years and years to come, I think, and I thought they executed that beautifully. And but the whole plan of Zaheer was really kind of weird. Like I get what he was trying to do. I think he knew that because Korra lost her connection to the previous elements, that her avatar state would probably be much harder to force out of her, and so he needed to use the poison. But my problem with it is the way he does it, because he has Korra chained up, with these four metal chains, keeping her body in place so that she can bend. And then he basically puts the poison in, and then Korra goes into the Avatar state, and she beats everybody's asses except Zaheer, who she goes after as the poison is damaging her body. And my big problem with it is that why the fuck did he not break her arms and legs? Like, that the Avatar state is horribly, horribly overpowered. Why the fuck would you not opt to use... why the fuck would you not break her arms and legs to stop her? Because even in the Avatar state, the Avatar still needs to use the motions of his own body to bend the elements. It's not like he can, telepathically split apart an entire island from the continent. An Avatar still needs to have a functioning body for the Avatar state's immense power to be worth a fuck. And if he just broke Korra's arms and legs, he could have stopped her and he could have won right then and there. And overall, the finale just had a weird feeling for me. It felt like some shit from book 1 and 2, and I wasn't completely into it until the very end, where, Korra cries and Jinora becomes a master. But before that, everything kind of felt weird. The poison thing felt off for me. The way he does it felt off for me. And I really, really disliked the way the last two members of Zaheer's group go out. Basically, Bolin goes after the lava bender, and Mako goes after the waterbending chick, and they've been kind of made adversaries out of one another, because in the previous battles, Mako always fights her, and Bolin always fought him, and they've kind of become rivals in that sort of sense, and I thought that was okay. But Pali, the combustion chick, it took two master earthbenders, the daughters of Toph, to take her down, and even then, Suyin only managed to beat her just because she managed to time it right. If Pali managed to fire that shot off a second faster, the explosion wouldn't have gone off, and Pali probably would have killed Lin and blown her right off the side of the cliff. And yeah, that was good because it was a hard battle. But in here, these guys get taken out like punks. The waterbending chick, she throws Mako into this small cave thing, and then he just electrocutes her and kills her, and that's it. This chick, who has taken on Kaya and several other noteworthy benders, gets taken out like a punk, just like that. And then the lava bending guy, he sees that he's cornered, and then he basically commits suicide. He just activates the lava and burns himself alive because he says that there's no way in hell he's going to spend another 15 years in another boring-ass cell if he gets captured, and so he basically commits, suicide. We don't see it, of course, but I think it's fair to say that he's probably dead. And I think that this is a problem of where they hyped up the villains to such a degree that you would either have to get a whole shitload of powerful characters, powerful heroes, that is, to beat them, or find some kind of contrived bullshit to stop them. Now, I know why they went with the latter, because they needed to resolve everything quickly, but overall, for these two being shown as capable and as strong as they are, for them to go out like that, like punks, really, really didn't sit right with me. But yeah, overall, so yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on the finale, I guess. I understand why they did a lot of the things, but I don't think everything was executed the way it could have been, and overall, it just felt really weird. He basically hyped up his whole big plan and shit for the Avatar as, I'm gonna poison the Avatar, and then I'm gonna kill her in the Avatar state. And it's like using a kryptonite bullet to kill Superman. It's such an obvious plan, to get rid of someone, that when you say it, it's like, eh? It's like, it doesn't work. I mean, it works, it works because it's gonna kill them, but still, it's just such a boring, mundane way to go about it, and really, I don't know. I don't know. It was just really. It was hyping. It was making a problem out of something that shouldn't really be a problem, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And man, this video's been going on for 40 minutes, and my mind's already kind of blanking out, I guess. But overall, Legend of Korra Book 3, I thought this book was fucking awesome for the most part. There were some missed opportunities with Mako and Bolin's character development. Bolin continues to be a big walking and talking issue of the series, and overall the finale where the villains kind of get, Boba Fetted. I was not a fan of that. But all the stuff that happens to Korra was great. Korra's friendship with Asami is great. The Air Nation becoming Jedi Knights at the end was fucking awesome. And the animation, voice acting, all that kind of stuff was top-notch as usual. So yeah, Korra Book 3, I highly recommend it. It has a couple of issues, but overall I think that this is one of the best seasons of Avatar in general, and I think that all of you guys should definitely check it out. And judging by the premiere of Book 4, I think that Korra, if they pull off Book 4 the way they pulled off its premiere, I think Book 4 could be the best season of Avatar ever. Now, that might be a bit presumptuous of me to say, but just the way they built everything up from what happened in Book 3, I'm really excited for the future, and I think that we are in store for some really good Avatar shit for Korra's final season. So yeah, guys, that's my review for Korra Book 3. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Bye.